So guys, as we continue to try to progress Bright Connections and have it reach a broader audience, we can't do it without you guys. So if you could take a moment to follow social media, Instagram Bright Connections, Twitter Bright Connect, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share these social media platforms, and share the YouTube channel. It would truly go a long way in trying to progress the Bright Connections outlook and the reach that we have towards others, and trying to make this world a brighter place. Try to influence everybody in a positive way. So if you could take the moment just to subscribe to the channels, follow the channels, share the videos, especially the ones that you enjoyed. Share the videos and continue to try to have Bright Connections reach a wider variety and a wider audience of people, because word of mouth is truly the best form of promotion, and I can't do it without you guys. So if you could take a moment, I would greatly appreciate it if you could do that kind of thing for me. So let's get to the episode. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
Mr. Bold is ready to go.
Mr. Bold.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Mr. Bold's lair.
Mr. Bold's
Mr.
lair.
Bold doesn't have. I don't have a man cave.
Close enough, though. Your little office.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bright Connections. I'm BK. Joining me this week, a wonderful guest, a friend of mine and a coworker, Mr. Bold himself, aka Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
Brian, I'm doing well, and you'll have to forgive me if I refer to you as coach, because that's what I do every day of the week, or the 5 days of the week that we work together.
Exactly. So Tom knows that I'm a lacrosse coach, and one day he just decided to call me coach instead of Brian, and it just stuck ever since. And so, he's got his handful of nicknames at work as well, but he calls me coach, and it stuck. I love every day Tom walks in and, Coach, how you doing? I say, doing well, sir. How about you? And it's great.
Always will, but thank you for asking.
That's right. And that's his saying as well. It never fails to brighten people's day when Tom welcomes everyone to start the day.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for having me on the show here. I heard a lot about it. I know that you're probably worldwide right now, just like old Casey Kasem's Top 40 back in the old days. Heard around the world on all these podcast stations.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, Tom's been a follower of the show, and we've talked in the past about trying to get him on, and it just hasn't quite come to fruition. But now here we are. Just like a lot of the other guests, they've expressed their interest and eventually find their way on, and it's been a blast with everyone else so far. So I can imagine it's going to be the same with Tom today.
Let us hope you finally got a hold of my agent there.
That's right. My guy got in touch with your guy.
That's right. You know how difficult I am to get a hold of.
Right. Oh man. So I at the beginning of the show I mentioned Mr. Bold. Now, Tom, you want to explain a little bit the background of what Mr. Bold is and how that came to play?
Absolutely. Well, Coach, you know that I'm probably the one guy in the office that gives nicknames to most people. Not everybody, but I bet you at work, about 80%, 90% of the people that have a nickname, I've given it to them.
Yes.
So way back in probably the 90s at my old company, we would get into betting games, and I would, football games, given spreads, whatever, plus or minus points. So I started to get to where I wanted to have some excitement, and I would be bold in my betting procedures at work. Okay. So if the spread was 14 points, I would take the other team and I would say, okay, I'll give you 28 points. That's how bold I'm going to be. So it was a lot of that boldness in betting on sports back at the old company, not the current company, but the old company.
Right.
That actually I gave myself, believe it or not, it's probably bogus, but I gave myself the nickname Mr. Bold.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Some people say poo-pooed me on that one, but Mr. Bold is stuck from the 1990s. You should be familiar with the poo-poo comments there, because at work I've used that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. brush it off.
Yep.
So that's how Mr. Bold came into being. And I use that when, as you and I have chatted in the past, I do sometimes TV for Bethel Park Public Access Television.
Correct.
And when I do the non-serious stuff, I do go by my moniker, Mr. Bold,
Right.
on the television show. And then there's times that I do serious stuff, and then I use my real name.
Right.
But to answer the question for your audience, Mr. Bold, is I gave it to myself, and the genre was betting, bold in betting.
Gotcha.
And I crashed and burned a lot too. A lot of those bets, I
Didn't work
took
out
it
in your favor?
I took it in the shorts, man, on a lot of those. But then again, I just came back the next week again as bold as ever.
Bold as ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a baseball game there that we had at work, and it was just fun. You would pick guys, and there was money involved.
Mhm.
So there was stuff where you could win big or lose big. With groups, paying 4 or 5 guys if they beat you on the particular sporting event that we were doing.
Yep.
So the boldness there sometimes really cost me, virtually reputation wise and monetarily.
I could definitely see the bold not only coming into play with your story and how that
Yep.
is, but also just your personality. You're definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, my background too. So that's what I tell everybody. If you have them guess, I was a veteran, and we haven't covered that yet. So I am a veteran, and I say, what branch of the service do you think I was in? And some of it's funny whenever they guess, and I go, what do you about my personality? Few of them get Marine, but so for your audience, yeah, I am a former Marine. No such thing as an ex-Marine, former Marine.
Right. No such thing. Okay. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. Nice.
Then I was a Marine officer. So I was not, and I didn't go through enlisted. I graduated from college, ROTC, and then got commissioned.
Right.
And I go way back with that one. 83, 84 is my time in the service.
Okay.
But thank you for asking, Coach.
Yeah, I literally was. I was just about to. I was gonna say. Yeah. So, and how long did you serve?
4 years. The obligation. I was fortunate enough to get a 3-year Navy scholarship, and with that came a 4-year obligation. I had a good time. I love the Marine Corps. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Honest to God, I really would.
Yeah. No, you've told me a handful of stories, at work break and everything. Some of the crazy things you did and some of your life stories. Good.
Well,
times,
we're a different
I'm sure.
breed. Honestly, I don't know how many Marines you've come in contact with or your audience has, but we are a different breed. That Marine ethos is inside of us. It's just instilled in us, and it's in me today. And I'm out 40 years now.
Yeah.
But I'll always be a Marine.
You always say too, you always remember some of the stuff that happened in your past, but you don't always remember what happened today or yesterday, but you remember some of those crazy stories.
That's it, man.
From 30, 40 years ago.
You hear that bleed over where I say, I can't remember, stuff from this morning that I had for breakfast,
Yeah.
but why the heck do I remember stuff from 40 years ago?
Yeah.
And that is true.
They just,
That is
it's memories, it's stories embedded in your brain. They had a huge
Same with
impact on
college. It was a military school that I went to as well. So again, that's 40 plus years.
Yeah.
And again, why can't I remember stuff from breakfast? And I remember, or talking to you about somebody from back in that time. I could, as you and I have talked at work, I picture them in my mind's eye as we're talking about it. I virtually see them in my brain.
Yeah.
Then I think we've talked about that where nothing's ever forgotten. You remember
Yes.
everything.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
have
misfiled.
Yeah, we have talked about that. Yeah, technically, I've heard, that everything that has happened in your life, you technically have stored in your brain through your entire life. It's just a matter of recalling it. It's a matter of bringing it to the forefront and remembering it. But that's a crazy thing to think about.
And when we talk about that, I'm a true believer in that, because as you and I most recently chatted, how do you remember when you can't think of somebody's name? You see, if you just can't think of that,
Yeah.
and then bam, all of a sudden it's there. However, that comes back into forefront
Right.
of your brain. It's there, and the brain is amazing.
Oh, it is.
Our brain is amazing.
Absolutely.
But I know your show's not about the brain. I don't think.
I don't think
not
so.
Today's episode.
Not today's.
And I'm
that's
not a
fair.
brainiac either, as I've told you.
No, neither am I. No, but
Although
today,
you have bright connections, though. Bright. See, I always say that those that are bright, and I'm assuming that you're bright, Coach, because you have bright connections there.
every once in a while,
There you go.
every once in a while.
The ones that get calculus. I think calculus might work into my chatting about our topic today, but
It might.
it might. We'll leave that though for the audience to wonder
Exactly.
It's Mr. Bold going to talk about calculus. How does that fit into today's show? But I digress.
That's all right. That's all right. So before we get started on the main topic today, I do want to update a little bit with some of the sports playoffs that are going on. I do realize that I haven't really touched too much on the NBA playoffs, but I have touched on the NHL playoffs. Now with the NHL, we're in the final. So we officially hit the final. We have the last two teams remaining in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We have the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Tampa Bay Lightning are the reigning champions. So they're looking to defend their title. They're looking to go back to back. Montreal, the team that everybody's counted out this entire playoffs. Every series that they played, and everybody's picked the other team to win. And they continue to just prove everybody wrong. It's one of those underdog stories. And me coming as a coach, as a player, a former player, I love those kind of stories. I love underdog stories. I love when people count teams out and they prove them wrong. Even if they're playing against the team that you like, I like the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's who they just recently defeated. I like the Golden Knights, but it's a fun story to see a team like that rise up to the occasion, rise up to the challenge, and push through and prove everybody wrong, in a sense. And so good for Montreal on what they've accomplished so far, behind some great goaltending, some wonderful play from younger players, younger kids. They had one guy, Cole Caulfield, he literally came up at the very end of the regular season. Like Kate just played a couple of games at the end of the regular season, and then now he's played the playoffs, and he's performed really well. Young kid, I think like 20, 21, something like that, and he just played really, really well. And it's a lot of fun to watch. As a spectator when your team's out, but you still get to sit behind the scenes and just enjoy hockey. It's a lot of fun. Tom, I don't know how big of a hockey fan you are.
I am not a big hockey fan. I want to see Pittsburgh win. I'm all for the Pittsburgh teams winning.
Right.
I don't follow. I've lost my taste for sports only because of the money issue, I think. And now they're starting to, not so much hockey, but they're interjecting politics into it. So baseball, basketball, football, hockey at the lower end, with regard to that, used to be a hardcore football fan. When we first moved here to the Pittsburgh area from Northern Virginia, that was the year that the Penguins won their first Stanley Cup.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. We were up staying at the old Residence Inn in Greentree and watching the playoffs there.
Nice.
And they picked up the first win. I think that was 91.
Yep.
So
indeed it was. I'll never forget because that was the year I was born.
No, I'll be damned.
Sorry, I didn't mean to date you there.
That's all right, man. Now, speaking about the underdog, and I agree with you, Coach, 100%. We've talked about movies in the past, or the team itself, like the 1980 hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
To me, one of the best sports stories ever. You as a coach can appreciate that. How did he bring those guys together, Herb Brooks, to mold them into a team that quickly?
Yeah.
And then rise through that tournament there at the 1980 Winter Olympics, and then end up beating the Soviets. Again, it was just drive.
Yeah.
And again, you understand that as a coach, even with your young ones, there's instilling that drive in them.
Yeah.
And again, they were written off even by the American sports guys. Yeah. But it's always good. That's I've had other coaches tell me that they've used that or the movie that comes out, and that story is an inspirational thing for their teams.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you can get the players to forget that it's not all about them and that it's about something bigger, and put that everything else aside and just play together, play with passion. It's the miracle on ice, as it's been called, that 1980 Olympics team. Yeah, that's one of the most memorable, inspiring moments in history for sure, especially hockey history.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Every year, on the date, I always see it on social media and stuff. Recognizing that date in history as one of the greatest, and it was absolutely a huge accomplishment. I mean, like you said, one of the biggest underdog stories, one of the biggest
upsets.
Yeah, the biggest upsets. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It was just a huge moment in history, and Yeah, any team that can pull that off, it's inspiring.
Every once in a while I go onto the YouTube just to watch the clip and Al Michaels with that final minute, and even knowing the results, it's still I could feel the hair on the back of my neck. You just get motivated, knowing where that's going. And I remember I was in college. It was my senior year in college, February of my senior year. And I think they played that game actually at 5:00 in the afternoon. They weren't worried about prime time back in the day.
Yeah.
So, and I remember when they announced it over at, where I went to school, we lived in a barracks, and they announced it over the PA system, and there was just a major roar because we had the Iranian hostage situation going on there, and the U.S. needed a boost. And that was morale wise, it was something good.
And that was, wow. How about that, huh?
That's another story.
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah. But so that's where we stand with the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've got Tampa Bay looking to defend their title, Montreal looking to upset yet another team. The powerhouse.
Well, what's your take on that? What do you think, Coach?
Again, I don't want to root against Montreal with the way they played, but Tampa Bay, man, they're a powerhouse.
Are they that good?
They are.
That good?
Yeah,
I don't follow it enough to know.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're some of the numbers, some of their statistics that they've had throughout the playoffs, especially their power play unit. I mean, it seems like every time that power play unit gets on the ice, they're scoring a goal, and it's crazy the way they just pass around and it just goes in, and it just looks so simple to them.
Now they're not the type of team to overlook somebody like Montreal. And again, you follow the sport more than I do. Is Montreal going to be tired? Will this be their third series or fourth series?
This will be the fourth.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, both teams technically, it'll be their fourth. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of hockey, especially playing, a whole regular season and everything. And it's all about stamina. It's all about the will to continue to put, the best foot forward and keep going. That's tough. If I got to make a prediction, I'm gonna stick with Tampa Bay. I'm rooting out the underdog yet again.
All right, Bright Connection fans, you heard it from the coach.
You heard it here first.
I got it out of him. He's on the record now.
Yep, Tampa Bay. I'll say Tampa Bay in 6 games.
All right,
in 6 games.
We'll see what kind of a prognosticator you are, Coach.
I'm wrong a lot on these predictions. I do these predictions a lot, and I'm wrong a good bit.
Hey, but you're bold, man. You're bold.
You gotta be.
That's it.
That's right. You gotta be. So that's where we stand. I'm excited to watch either way, especially the final of the Stanley Cup playoffs is always a blast. Now moving on to NBA, as I mentioned, haven't really touched too much on it, but we stand with the NBA finals in the playoffs. We stand at the semifinals. So there's still 4 teams remaining. The Los Angeles Clippers are playing the Phoenix Suns, and the Atlanta Hawks are playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, both of those series are already going on. Phoenix is up 2-1 in their series, and the other series is tied 1-1. So still early in the series. If anything, I'm excited about the Phoenix Suns in the one series, in the West series, and I would like to see the Milwaukee Bucks in the East series. Phoenix Suns, they haven't really been in the playoffs for a while. Haven't had a good team in a handful of years, but they put it together this year behind a young superstar. Of course, there's always somebody to follow on a good team. There's always somebody leading the way. Young scorer on Phoenix is a lot of pretty exciting. Devin Booker is his name. Fun guy to watch. And then they also added in a veteran to lead the team in that aspect as well. Always got to have the young talent and the old guy leading the way. It always seems to work out that way with any sport, really. You always got to have young skilled guys and old wise guys. So. But I'd like to see Phoenix move on, and I'd like to see Milwaukee move on. I like the Milwaukee team. Their star, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Greece guy. He's from Greece. A lot of fun saying his name, that's for sure. But
compliments on that pronunciation, Coach. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. But I mean, it's just, again, I'm not a huge basketball fan, but I do like watching here or there to see who's doing well, who's playing well, see who's progressing. And I mean, Atlanta has their own superstar too. Their young superstar, Trae Young. He's a good, he's scoring from half court half the time. Seems like one of those long distance shooters. And then the Clippers, the last, fourth team, they've got a couple of well-known guys. But no, well, I guess they do have a superstar too, but their guys are come and gone a little bit. I'd like to see some of these newer guys kind of make their way to the finals and see somebody else succeed where others have already. So that's where we stand. 4 teams. Series are somewhat on the early side, 1-1 and 2-1. So we'll see where we go from there. If I had to predict here, I'm gonna say that Phoenix is gonna win over Los Angeles, and I will say that Milwaukee will beat Atlanta as well. I think Milwaukee has a little bit more depth in their team, and I think Phoenix has they're riding high on how well they're doing with how they haven't been in the playoffs for a long time, and then just they're rallying behind this young kid who a lot of people have said he's such a talented young kid who has not had the chance to be in the playoffs yet, and so now everybody's just hyped up and all for having him succeed. So that's my prediction. We'll see.
Now the young kid that you're talking about, a player was on TV early this week. I think Good Morning America, scoring 48 points. Is that one of the individuals that you were talking about? He looked like he was shooting from almost half court, banged in a lot of threes.
Yeah, so that was the guy from Atlanta, actually.
Okay.
So that was the guy from Atlanta. That was the Trae Young guy. Yeah, he's been putting up some big time points for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my concern though with their team, is that who else do they have other than him to really score? If Milwaukee shuts him down, even half of that, 20 some points as opposed to close to 40, do they have enough support from other players to be able to succeed? Yeah. Yep.
And again, as a coach, you can relate to that again, even with your young ones.
Yep. If you don't have somebody to score enough goals, you don't score goals. We had trouble that year. We didn't really have a superstar scoring goals, and the goals are tough to come by. But as I talked about a couple weeks ago with the end of our lacrosse season, I'm super proud of my boys. We in our playoffs bracket. I don't know if I told you this at work or not, but in our playoffs, we did actually win our one game, our first game, and it was against a powerhouse team, and we were definitely the underdog, definitely going in not looking like we had good chance, and boy, they played out of their minds, and they were just so incredibly excited and stoked after they won. The one kid comes up to me and he goes, "Oh my God, I'm so excited, I almost puked." It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Oh man.
That's the kind of story that you're going to remember years from now.
Yes.
When you can't remember what you had for breakfast.
Yep.
You remember that kid telling you that, your player.
Yeah, I will.
That's the kind of impact that you're making on the team's coach. That's what it's always impressed me since you've told me that you've been a coach there. And I know that you're making an impact on those kids, which is great.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely my goal is not only making them good lacrosse players, but making them good people, good kids.
There you go.
Molding them into young men with respect and good values.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So, all right, that is the NHL and the NBA playoffs. I'm a big sports guy, obviously, and I'm excited to watch some good competition, whatever the case may be, whatever the sport may be. So now on to the main topic of the day. So a couple weeks ago, we had a news story kind of released that the government officially saying that, yes, there have been cases of UFOs, unidentified flying objects. There have been cases officially in the United States or in the world. I can't remember. I'm assuming it was at least the United States. And so it got me thinking, well, do I believe in that? Do I believe that, aliens exist and all this other stuff? So Tom and I are going to discuss what we think about UFOs and aliens and all that good stuff. So Tom, did you hear that news release? The same.
I did.
Yeah. What do you think about it?
Well, here's what I think about UFO. So unidentified flying object. I'll say that I believe in UFO because if they can't identify something, it's unidentified. Just like for me, illegal is illegal. There's no, it's either illegal or it's not illegal.
Right.
So it's either identified or unidentified. One of my issues, Coach, is all these things that they show us. I won't say all these things, the videos that they show us with regard to capturing what's supposedly an unidentified flying object. Oh, sorry about that, Coach.
That's okay.
I got excited there. Why are they so degraded in quality? Why can't they pick out a true form for the most part? Now, there are some that look like a flying saucer. I've always wondered about that. I don't believe I'm a conspiracy guy, but that's one of the things that's always bothered me. And it also almost looks like it's a fighter plane image that's taken that photograph or the video. And why can't they get closer? And again, why is it degraded? Yeah. So that makes me skeptical to a degree.
Yeah,
I've heard some stuff. Could have been I think it was on the news, maybe Fox, where they listed 5 items, and one of them was other countries' technology that's up there that's being discovered. That's not, well, it could be not of this world, and the government, the military wants to keep that under wraps if they've discovered something like that. So it could be that.
Yeah.
So on the unidentified part, until they prove it otherwise, I'll believe that it's unidentified.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Could it be an alien saucer? It could be. Could it be some type of like atmospheric anomaly? A meteor,
right?
Or
exactly.
Something like that. Yeah, and I definitely see your point where a lot of the images or the videos, they're not clear. They just look like a bright, weird light in the sky or something like that. Nothing up close, nothing where you can fully see the outline or the shape of the item. It's
but again, that's them releasing that too. So did they degrade that on purpose? Is the video that's taken by that fighter jet or interceptor, is it extremely clear?
Yeah.
And then they just degrade it for national security reasons.
Security purposes,
I don't know. I don't know if you hear the bleed over at work. I always refer to one of our sections up there as Area 51.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll get to that.
Nobody knows what's going on. Yeah, nobody knows what's going on in that department. And just like in United States where we have our own Area 51, nobody knows what's going on there. Yeah, that's
for the most part. Truly, I believe that in Area 50, I do believe in Area 51, first of all.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's going on there is so far generation-wise in technology, so far ahead of what we're seeing that's being released or seeing on television.
Yes.
So, for example, I was talking today to my crew here at home. Drones. I think the drones are so far ahead now that the military has or that NASA has compared to what we're seeing out on the market.
Oh yeah.
4 or 5, 6 generations down the road. I think they're going to have those little bug-looking ones. They probably already have those.
Yeah.
That the spies use.
Yeah.
I digress to Area 51 though.
No. I do want to talk about Area 51. I do. I agree with you. I think Area 51 definitely has some heavy secrets, if you will, some items and some topics that definitely can't and maybe shouldn't be released to the general public.
Correct.
And I know, I think it was last year that they wanted to storm. There was that big uprise and people wanting to storm Area 51 to see what was in there.
I don't know. I don't know about that. So educate me on that.
Okay. Yeah. So there was a group of people that were forming together. They talked about it weeks in advance about forming a group of people that literally just wanted to storm Area 51. Just normal people, generic public, and they put together this big group of people that were talking about on this date we're gonna try to storm Area 51 and see what's in there, and it never really happened, thankfully, because it probably would have ended up not so great. Because I can imagine that the government wants to do everything they can to prevent that. But yeah, there was a big group, a big uprising of people that wanted to know what's in Area 51. Why are you still keeping it in secret? What's in there? We'd like to know too. And like I said, never really happened, but it was a crazy thing talked about for weeks, and everybody was like, okay, this is probably not going to end so well. But I mean,
So
it is intriguing to know. You definitely would be cool to know what's in there, but at the same time, it probably would be a little scary if there's stuff in there that's.
now, what do you think on that? So let's say that would have come to fruition. Some of the videos that I've seen, either on YouTube or on the news, sorry about that again, Coach. Got excited. Area 51.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the fences are posted, and in certain government installations, they will have on the federal signs that are on there, lethal force authorized. So I don't know if Area 51 has that type of warning to the general public. I know the nuclear facilities would have something like that, where lethal force, if somebody breaks through that perimeter, I mean, they can be shot on sight. That's what I understand, that lethal force is authorized to, and it would have ended badly, I think, one way or another. Whether lethal force was used or not, they wouldn't have gotten close to the actual Area 51 facilities.
No, I agree. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine there's heavy warnings around Area 51 about force used or do not enter. And
there's got to be there's those rings of security. So you have that perimeter gate that's way out, or fence that's way out.
Yeah.
And then you'll have your circular as you get closer to and who knows, there might be landmines or something in there too,
There could be.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, there could be. Absolutely. There's probably a heavy fortified wall and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
In some of those areas, like you see in the movies, where a gun turret will come up out of the ground.
Yeah.
Not even manned, it'll just be automatic.
Yeah.
So
that's
what those people, and I'm sure a lot of those people are former military. They'll think about that stuff too. The organized, and a lot of talk. But then when it comes to actually doing something like that, it would take a lot of guts to do that. First of all,
absolutely.
Maybe the people would call it stupidity guts. But,
yeah.
And would it be worth it? What would they get out of that? That would be the other thing. That group that would do that.
Right.
Other than casualties.
It's cool to know, but I mean, like you said, is it worth really risking your life to try to figure that out? Yeah.
Now, some of the stuff too, I'm seeing it on YouTube, the Area 51. Like the SR-71, the big reconnaissance plane that I believe is maybe still be in existence, and it's being replaced by the satellites, but it was developed there. They called it the Skunk Works.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big black aircraft. Speed, I think, flies twice the speed of sound, but it was one of the ones that would fly high over Russia, take reconnaissance photos.
Huh.
And it was, and I think it was developed there, or it was developed in California at a place called the Skunk Works, and then secretly brought to Area 51 for the test flights. The U-2 probably came out of the U-2 spy plane, which was the precursor to the SR-71, probably came out of flight training in the Area 51.
Yeah. So you're definitely a firm believer that they are developing very advanced technology and items and everything at Area 51.
Yeah, at a minimum, and probably other places around the country. Compartmentalized is what they use in the government. People doing a certain thing that you don't know what else somebody else is doing.
Right.
And it all comes together maybe in Area 51.
So now
who knows? Go ahead.
Going back to the alien aspect, then, do you think that they're getting some of this technology from otherworldly items, or?
There again, I'm skeptical on that, but you can't discount it 100%.
Yeah.
I can't. If you would put me on the stand and maybe take the oath to tell the truth, I would have to say there's a possibility that some of that could be extraterrestrial.
Yeah, it's hard to know for sure. You just don't know. That's why it's such a huge secret.
The B-2 bomber, the stealth stuff. They're saying how could that have been developed here on Earth? A lot of that radar absorbing material possibly came extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not that bright style, so that I just don't know.
Yeah.
I can't discount it, Coach. That's the bottom line.
I
can't
agree.
Discount it.
I agree. Now, in general, do you believe in aliens? Do you think that there are extraterrestrials? Do you think there are people on other planets or other in other galaxies or anything? Do you believe there's life other than here on Earth?
I'm going to say that outside of our solar system, I can't discount the fact that there might be other intelligent life forms out there. That's not to say that we could possibly be. Why would these? I can't understand. Again, the items that we've been told, when they come and we find these UFOs or spot them, why aren't they making contact? Yeah. Why don't they make contact? Why don't they land? So we've gone to the moon and landed on the moon. I believe that we've done that. So and people believe that these technologies or these UFOs are coming from a race that is much more advanced than we are. So what's the hesitancy of landing on Earth and making contact?
Yeah.
But again, I can't discount. I can't say with 100% certainty that I don't believe that we are the only creatures in the big universe. Yeah. In our solar system, I'm going to say we are the only ones in our solar system, because again, we have the rovers now on Mars. In the early days, there I go again. Got excited with Mars. Oh my goodness! Come on, Coach. Mars was the big thing for the old school movies. Martians, etc., or aliens coming from Mars. Right. And now we've landed on Mars. Several countries have, I believe. And then nothing's being discovered there. There's no we know of.
I was saying, or is it that hasn't been released? Exactly.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. You got me there, Coach. You got me there.
Yeah.
So what has been shown to the general public does not indicate that there's any life as we would think it. Now, again, I don't believe, the aliens as they are portrayed in the movies. Why is it always? It has to be ominous, I think, for Hollywood purposes.
Yeah.
We're not human to human, or humanoid to human is not going to be as exciting as the one where the mouth comes out of the alien.
Right.
And gets scared by Sigourney Weaver.
Right.
So in our solar system, I'm going to say that we are the predominant race, for the lack of a better term. Outside, I can't discount that there may be somebody else out there.
Right. It's such a vast.
Yes.
I mean, it's mind-blowingly vast.
We don't know. We
have no idea. How could we know?
Correct.
There's no way we could possibly fathom what's out there beyond our solar system.
And if you think about it, let's say that at the time that Jesus was born, they were able to launch a rocket or a satellite and sent it out into deep space. That's 2,000 years ago, and we still wouldn't know. 2,000 years from now, if Earth still exists, will we still reach the outer? I don't think. Is there an end to the universe?
Right. And that's a whole nother question,
That's
topic.
why I tune into the Bright Connection show to find out information.
Okay. To find out if the universe ends.
It's right.
I don't think Bright Connections has that answer.
I don't know, Coach. One day you would have a show that would answer that for Mr. Bull.
Very good. Okay. But you talked about, how come if there was other life, how come they never did land? And that's an interesting point too. And also, how come that it's always like only one occurrence? How come there's not more than one UFO or ship or whatever you want to call it? Why is it always just this one little object?
Again, that's what they're showing us, Coach.
Right.
That's what it's showing us. And I've heard, again, not heard, but on the YouTube, the speculations by what are the ones that I don't think they're conspiracy theorists, but were there aliens on the moon? At some point, did the Apollo missions actually discover something out there? But again, would they release that? Would the government release that?
Right.
That's another show that I'd have to tune in on, Coach.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know what? No, let's talk about the moon. Let's talk about that whole scenario with the Apollo missions and going to the moon and everything. Obviously I think we both agree that we have been to the moon.
I believe that we landed on the moon. That's correct.
Yeah. So there are definitely those conspiracy theorists that believe that it was all Hollywood, it was all effects, and that we never officially went to the moon. I don't believe that. I do think that we've been to the moon, and you said that you do as well. But we also we've talked. You and I have talked. If that's the case, and people are still skeptical about it, why haven't we been back? Why haven't we done it again?
Correct. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Well, here's what I believe. I think it's a money issue. Again, it's politics and money. They got to the moon, and I'm a believer in this because they had an unlimited budget back in the 60s. Okay. Just like the Manhattan Project for the atom bomb. Back in that day, that was almost an unlimited budget. And in that short period of time, they developed the A-bomb. Mm-hmm. And then as I watched the videos or the movies and heard the people that actually worked at NASA during those programs, we just decided to go. And it just blows my mind to this day that we went there on math, Coach. You and I have talked about that before. Yeah. I never understood what the heck calculus was all about. And I was terrible at calculus. But again, the more I learned about it, it was calculus that put us into orbit, calculus that took us to the moon and back. And it's just, if I could tell the young kids that whenever they ask, what the heck do I need to, as a teacher, why do I need to know calculus? And I didn't know it back then, but I know it now. Well, that's how we went to the moon.
Right.
It's just amazing. Again, the more I watch on YouTube, I listen to they actually have the flight director loops, actual audio talking between the ground and the capsules. It's fantastic.
Right.
Just listening to the real world stuff there. Yeah. And then looking at the computers that they had back then. They went to the moon on slide rules.
On what?
Slide rule. I don't know. Do you know what a slide rule is?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Calculate. Yeah. Slide
yeah,
rule.
yeah.
You see the guys in the movies, at least working the numbers on a darn slide rule.
Wow.
And again, it just blows me away. I have somewhere around here, I have a Texas Instrument calculator that I've been told has more memory and calculating power than the lunar module computer. That just blows me away. And I lived through that period. Yeah. As a young kid, I lived through that period.
Wow.
Yeah. Our phones right here, our phones probably have more calculating power than they.
Absolutely. Far and
then
away.
Just the guts to go, the guys that went there, sitting on top of the rockets.
Yeah.
But again, why haven't we gone back to the moon? I think it's money in politics. But again, if they want to go out to Mars, they have to start with the moon, I believe. They have to put somebody on long-term on the moon so that they can at least work out logistics and see if people could survive in an environment like that with no oxygen. Yeah. It's all have to be supplied and food, etc. Yeah. I think they're going to have to go back to the moon.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Coach? You're that younger generation, post. You didn't live through the Apollo stuff.
Right. I mean, from everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard about it, I have no reason to not believe that we were there. I mean, it was, like you said, the technology that they had in that day. I mean, making a trip to the moon would have been just worlds beyond anything that anybody could have imagined. To go so far as to making it look like we went, just effects and Hollywood and everything. I'd like to believe that we wouldn't do something like that. I'd like to believe in us as a race that we wouldn't pull off that grand of a scheme,
right?
To fake it per se. Do I think it's possible? Yeah, obviously, but I do believe that we were there. I have no reason really not to. With
now, have you ever seen a movie? I think you're going to touch on movies later on in the show. But have you ever seen a movie that runs with the conspiracy theory that it was all staged?
I don't think I've seen a movie on that side of it. No.
Going to throw one out at you now.
Okay.
Maybe this is going to preempt I think the itinerary for the show. But there's a movie that was done years ago, I think in the late 70s or early 80s, called Capricorn 1.
Okay.
For your audience, Capricorn 1, where they loaded real quick, they loaded the astronauts into an Apollo type capsule, made it look like they were going to launch. They went out, the crew went out, got them out of the capsule and took them to someplace, maybe Area 51, where they had a stage set up.
Yeah.
For the moon landing and stuff. They staged the transit between Earth and the moon. So Capricorn 1 would be a conspiracy theory movie. Okay. James Brolin stars in that one.
How are you so perfectly portraying the change in gravity? I mean, I know you've got the harnesses and stuff that make it look like you're on, low gravity, but I mean, even back in that day, you were able to portray it that well.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, there was some, the conspiracy guys, they talk about the photos that were taken, the angle of the shadows, is the flag moving?
Yeah.
With the wind, was there wind there? Was there air movement?
Right.
Some of the photos, they're saying that they can see the wires coming off the backpacks of the astronauts, imitating the gravity.
Yeah.
And as you had mentioned earlier, in order for we're talking about 11, 12, 13, 14, 13 didn't make it. So 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. All those flights would have had to have been staged. And then all of the people at NASA on that conspiracy, keeping that thing alive.
Right.
But then again, there's still theories onto the Kennedy assassination. So
yeah.
Not to digress.
You're gonna have conspiracy theories on a lot of things, and how much do you really want to dive into it and try to disprove it?
Yeah. Well, I think as you and I've chatted too. I personally think, and again, they could do it as a precursor again to going back to the moon. Why don't they send up there a robot or a drone?
Yeah.
Take photos of the areas there, see the guys, the astronauts' footprints.
Yeah.
Find stuff up there that it could only have been, I think only could have been dropped off by a human, but could they have sent up a rocket there with garbage in it? It's just, it crashed in there. Again, there's too many countries, even back in those days, that could monitor the flights to the moon.
Yeah.
Because they had Russian stuff going on. I never knew this. The Russians were sending up rockets towards the moon at the same time the Apollo spacecraft were going. I didn't know that until very recently.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Could have had a space collision or something like that.
Yeah.
Seriously, I never knew that.
Right.
I just never knew that.
Yeah.
Theirs were unmanned, but there was times when they could have crisscrossed.
Right.
I think Apollo 8, the first one manned to go to the moon, there was an issue there with a Russian flight at that time. So
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Yeah. So all in all, I think it was true, and for now, I still believe it. Unfortunately, we didn't have any evidence of any aliens or any transformer, anything crazy on the moon. But
now, do you think those rich guys now, Elon Musk and SpaceX, are they going to send guys or girls up there to the men and women to the moon?
Why not?
Yeah, I think they can.
Yeah.
I'm just impressed. I don't know if you followed the SpaceX. I'm just impressed that they can put that rocket up in the air and then bring it back down on that platform out in the water.
Yeah.
Vertically.
Yeah.
Compared to the Apollo stuff, that's the only thing I have to compare it to. And it just blows me away that they landed that darn thing vertically on that platform out in the water.
Yeah.
Intact.
Yeah.
And then the crews that were going up there in their capsules, they look the modern day astronaut, not all that bulky stuff.
Right.
So yeah. I'm just thinking again, if you have the money, coach, you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have the technology now.
Yeah.
We definitely have the knowledge, even, as individuals, the knowledge nowadays versus back then.
Correct.
It would almost seem simple. It almost would seem just too simple now. Correct. To be able to do it as opposed to back then.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're right. If we could go to the moon back 50 years ago, why can't we do it now? Right. With the tremendous advancement in technology
and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
And that the spacecrafts now could go all the way to the moon, land themselves with the people inside with virtually no interaction.
Yeah.
From the crew.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm sure they're going to solve that because they had that time differential, a slight lag with the communications. I don't know how many seconds it was.
Right.
Because it was 250,000 miles away.
Yeah.
When they were on the other side of the line where the moon's gravity. And I followed the program back in the 60s, but I never understood we're going up right there. And then there's a line that the spacecraft would cross where the moon then would take over. That moon's gravity, it had gravity.
Right.
Start grabbing the aircraft and the aircraft would fall towards the moon.
Yeah.
Just again,
it was
so simplistic on TV, watching it on the videos.
Yeah.
But then when I'm just fascinated learning all these little nuances.
Yeah, you dive into it and how much went into it and how much happened actually. Yeah.
Correct. That's why I tune into Bright Connections. Find out stuff like this, man.
Right? Exactly. So you mentioned Apollo a couple times, and I know you have a good Apollo story for me.
I do.
Go ahead.
I mentioned Apollo 8.
Yes.
So the Apollo 8 crew was not originally scheduled to go to the moon. They were to do an in-earth orbit flight. Again, they were continuing to, I believe Apollo 9 was going to be the one to go to the first circumlunar out and back, no landing.
Okay.
But they bumped it up. I can't remember. I think it was because of that Russian rocket that was going to the moon back in that this was fall and winter of 1968.
Okay.
So prior to the fall and winter of 68, probably in the spring of 68, they made a decision to switch the Apollo 9 crew and make them Apollo 8 and send them around the moon.
Okay.
And on that crew for Apollo 8 was Jim Lovell, Frank Borman, Frank Borman was the commander, and I believe Dave Anders was the third pilot.
Okay.
So my Apollo story is when I was in the Marines, I served with a gentleman who became friends with Captain. He's now a captain. He was a naval officer, but Captain Lovell, his son. So my buddy was a friend of Captain Lovell's son. I had a picture of the Apollo 8 crew that I got back in the late 60s, early 70s from NASA. And I've had it for years, Well, since 68. I actually brought it with me all these years forward, and I still physically had the photograph. It was a color photo of the Apollo 8 crew standing in front of a lunar lander simulator. So I asked my buddy, if I get you this photo, can you get Captain, because he was the only one, I believe, at the time that I had the photo was still alive or with a connection,
right,
to possibly get an autograph on the photo.
Right.
So he agreed to do that. I sent him the paperwork, the photo, and other paperwork that I had of the Apollo 13 mission. Because Captain Lovell, if you remember the movie Apollo 13, he was in command of that mission. He was not in command of Apollo 8. So what I did end up getting was and I don't know if your audience can see that.
Oh yeah.
That's the Apollo 8 crew in front of a lunar lander simulator, and this is Captain Lovell right here.
Okay.
And he was gracious enough to autograph. There's his autograph.
Yeah.
In black marker right there.
Yeah.
So cherished memento, got it framed.
Oh, absolutely.
So
that's awesome.
Thank you for asking about that.
You bet. Thank you for sharing.
It's amazing that I have that photo now since 1968, 1969 time frame.
Yeah.
And it's gone. It hasn't degraded. It looks as good now as it did back then.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So and I've been to the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, and I've actually been to Cape Canaveral.
Really?
So been to both places, fascinating places, a lot of mementos, and displays there. I was actually in the old mission control room, the visitors section of the where you see them in the movie Apollo 13.
Right.
They filmed that in the old mission control center.
Right.
In Houston. So I was told.
So we all are led to believe.
Exactly. So,
wow, that's awesome. Awesome.
But again, fascinating to see that stuff. There I go again, Coach. That's poor equipment here at Mr. Bullett's Ranchero.
That's all right. That's awesome. Great story. Thank you for sharing that photo. That was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really cool.
So I'll pass that on, to my son.
Yeah.
He'll be more into that than my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So now going along with the whole alien aspect, just recently, a couple weeks ago, one of the biggest and first alien movies was released on June 11th of 1982. E.T. was released. So, it's been almost 40 years since that movie came out, and that was one of the most iconic movies. First time being introduced, like I said, to aliens. It kind of got everybody thinking about, is there life out there and all that. And great movie, for sure. Great movie, E.T. Tommy, I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you remember watching E.T. as a, I don't want to say young kid, but
what year did you say it came out, Coach?
1982.
All right. So I was a 24-year-old in 1982.
Okay.
To give you some perspective there. I don't think that was one of my top movies.
Yeah.
And let's see, at that time I was still in the service. So yeah, I didn't watch it when it first came out.
Right. Yeah.
But again, I've caught it. It's a cute movie.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But again, for me, it did nothing for me other than I'm neutral on the movie. Let's put it that way. So Mr. Bulge, no, I don't do Rotten Tomatoes, but Mr. Bolt's take on E.T. would be neutral.
Neutral. Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like I said. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't one of my top movies or anything either, but it was going on the whole, like I said, the whole alien aspect, the whole there's this other life out there. But
Right.
like you said, it was a cute movie. It was
Right.
it was a cute movie between the kid, Elliot, I believe, Elliot and E.T. And the bond that they formed and how the government wanted to capture E.T. and all that stuff. It all played in well with how people were looking at extraterrestrials at that time, probably. So,
exactly.
yeah.
I remember E.T. Phone Home. That's what I remember about the
Phone
movie.
Home. And actually, what's funny about that? You just reminded me. Everybody thinks that that's the phrase, E.T. Phone Home. It's actually not. It's actually E.T. Home Phone.
I'll be darned.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
If you go back and you look or watch the movie or at least watch the clip, it's actually E.T. Home Phone.
All right, so now see, I'm taking this from the Bright Connection show. I'm going to go find that on. I'm not BSing. I'm going to go find that on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated by that stuff.
Yes, I know. Everybody always would use that phrase, and I remember somebody pointing it out one time. That it's actually reversed. It's actually opposite of what everybody thought it was. And I watched the video of it too, the clip of it. I was mind blown too. Yeah, I was like, whoa. One of those things where you think you know what's going on, and then they pull a switcheroo on you. Crazy. Now, in addition to E.T., are there any other alien movies that you've watched that you've enjoyed or have intrigued you?
Well, I get beat on at home for watching movies thousands of times, the same movie 1,000 times. I don't know why, but I like Starship Troopers for some reason. I don't know why, Coach, but I've watched that numerous times. I can't get enough of that movie.
Yeah.
That one, I've watched the Alien trilogy or how many ever that have come out. I always liked that first one.
Yeah.
The second one, I think they might have, I don't know if in the first one or the second one, when they had the Space Marines. So the Marine thing, grabbed me there. They were Marines that went out there.
Right.
It was a fascinating take on, again, but the aliens, and again, the military aspect of that, they wanted to capture that alien to turn it into a weapon, back here on Earth. It was a killing machine. So the Alien movie, and I think as you and I have chatted at work at times, I'm more of the old school movies than the newer ones, or I'm not one for the modern movies trying to remake what I thought was a very, very good old movie.
Gotcha.
And I can digress now, if you want, Coach, into some of the older movies that I think are much better than their current versions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Current remakes. Well, I told you about the Capricorn One. Honestly, if any of the audience wants to look for something where they did a movie on the conspiracy theory that we didn't land on the moon, Capricorn One, James Brolin, I know that's way back, maybe even before your time, actor, was one of the main stars. And there I go again, Coach. Unbelievable. The Day the Earth Stood Still. I like the original versus the one with Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
And I'd say that, and again, this is in my humble opinion, and you'll have to forgive me because, as I've said at work a lot of times, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to this modern vocabulary. I am HO, in my humble opinion, on texting. It took me a while where I had to go to my daughter and say, what is IMHO? But I'm an acronym guy. So
yes,
I like
you are. Yes, you are.
So the Day the Earth Stood Still original versus the one with Keanu Reeves. That's my comparisons there. I thought the original was a good movie. The one with Keanu Reeves, I thought the modern technology or the special effects takes it well beyond for me to enjoy.
Okay.
And again, I'm always going to be tainted because of that original movie that I saw.
Okay, so I didn't even know that those two were
on the same line.
Same line.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The first one, made it made in the 50s. So it was a much more simpler time, a much simpler understanding of the universe back then, I believe. So that's why I like that one. War of the Worlds, the original, plus you had the radio broadcast back in 39, I believe, sorry about that, Coach. When Orson Welles did, I think that it caused a panic. They did the War of the Worlds on the radio. Yeah. Then they did a movie. Then Tom Cruise, the one that I know of, Tom Cruise, again, the modern technology and the special effects takes it well beyond, I don't know, I would call it my realm of believability, even though it is Hollywood.
Right.
So I like that original one better than the Tom Cruise version.
Okay.
Those are the ones that I think. And if you throw out one, I can always go back, being the dinosaur that I am, and try to pull out one back from the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, just talking in general, that's funny. We're really the exact opposite, where you like those older movies with less special effects and just simpler. And it's funny that I've told people in general that I don't really like watching too many movies from like pre-2000. Anything pre-2000 is like, there's obviously a few exceptions, but it's not that I'm huge on the crazy special effects. It's just I think it's just the picture itself, on how clear they are. And I do believe that acting has improved. Again, in general, obviously there were performances in the past that were far and away better than some of the ones, nowadays. But with just everything that's laid out there for them in this day and age, with all the tools that they have, with all the equipment and everything, in addition to the special effects, that you can just put together a movie that just looks so crisp. It moves smooth. Things are sometimes, things are mind blowing, some of the special effects. And I like action. I like some of the, these movies with a lot of bangs and bombs and explosions and everything. But it definitely still has to have a good plot, still has to have a good character development and everything to it. So we're definitely I when you first mentioned that to me the other day, talking about how you're all about the old movies as opposed to the new, and I was like, well, that's funny because I'm the exact opposite. So
we'll agree to disagree on that one, Coach.
Exactly.
Now, but again, to your point, if going back to The Day the Earth Stood Still, if you look at the your genre, which is the modern one with Keanu Reeves,
right,
versus the one that I like, and I'm just going to take the one character in the movie, both movies, the robot. The robot, obviously, in my time frame, 1950s, was very, very old school, clunky.
Yeah.
There's just no way that it can compare to a modern day simulation of that same robot.
Right.
And it looked fake, there, and it looked earthling like,
right,
compared to the technology that should have, come from outer space.
Right.
So granted, I will give you that those type of details, very, very, very difficult for me to say that it's better but you brought up better than the new movies. You brought up a good point. Acting wise, I would go back to the acting in my genre versus the acting in the new ones, and basing it again on the Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay.
I'm not a Keanu Reeves fan.
Okay.
So that's one of the other things that tainted me on that.
So you're all for the old days, the old acting. You feel that there was more impact or passion, or just more. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I truly believe that the acting was better in the old days, for the most, in my opinion. In my humble opinion.
Yeah, there's always exceptions, but yeah.
Correct. There's always exactly right, Coach.
Okay.
Coach, that's why you're the host of this show. So that was an excellent segue right there. Well done.
Of course. Yeah. And you've also mentioned to me when these new award ceremonies come up and they're giving out awards for Academy Awards or all these other movie type awards, you kind of base the current winners off some of your old experiences, your old movies that you've loved.
Correct.
I thought that was cool. You want to explain what I mean there?
Right. And this is even outside of the space, science fiction realm,
yes,
just movies in general.
Yes.
For example, I believe that The Bridge Over the River Kwai, it's a military movie, but won the Academy Award again back in the 50s. So I look at the acting in there, and I look at how they put that movie together, and then I look at some of the ones in the modern era that they give an Academy Award to. And in my humble opinion, there's just no comparison. But I would get crushed here at home because they would say, well, I can, because that's who I am, compare them against movies from the 50s. But again, it was the best picture at this time.
Right.
So again, being fair and being honest with you and your viewers, you have to take that into consideration.
So the impact of the movies in those days, in the 50s, and how those movies impacted you as a person compared to how these are today, there's just no comparison.
No comparison whatsoever. And again, I go with the sequels. I would try to do Bridge on the River Kwai again. They couldn't do it, and I could never look at the modern day Bridge on the River Kwai compared to the old one. Yeah. Lawrence of Arabia, I don't think they can redo, in my opinion, Lawrence of Arabia modern day and make it as good as the original.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people agree on that, even not just me, but a lot of people agree that even currently, even if you just look in trilogies or series or whatever, for example, Transformers for me, I'm a big Transformers guy. The original Transformers, the first Transformers, as opposed to, the sequels or the third or fourth or whatever movie, the first one is just far and away better. There's no other way to say it. It's just better in a lot of ways. I still enjoy the second and third ones, but the sequels to the original movies are extremely, extremely hard to bypass the original. It's very difficult for the following movies to be better than the original, and that's a great point that you bring up. And I think a lot of people feel the same way, that it would take a lot for a follow-up movie to surpass the original. Yeah.
Just to show you, Coach, and your audience, that I'm not as much of a dinosaur as I think I am. Was Optimus Prime in that movie?
Yes.
Ha! How about that?
How about that?
How about that? Mr. Bull pulls one in from left field. But that's about all I know. And they transform into something. That's what I know about that movie.
Yeah. Well, they're an alien, almost like they're an alien life form, but they're autonomous based. So they're like machines, and they transform into Earth vehicles. So they transform into like a truck or a car, whatever the case may be, so that they blend in with the rest of the vehicles on Earth, but then they can transform back to their state.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
I think my son was into the Transformers, the physical Transformer stuff that came out at the time.
Yes, when your son and I are almost close to the same age, and yeah, when we were kids, that was one of the bigger things, one of the bigger animated shows, and even just action figures and everything. Yeah, Transformers was huge when we were kids.
If I could take you back, Coach, to one of your comments with regard to sequels, I personally believe that these writers are running out of ideas, and that's why they go into the sequel, or they try to remake a movie. Yeah. Because the writers today are running out of ideas, or all of the ideas have been taken, and their creativity level is so low that they can't come up with something new.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, how many years have there been movies being released? How much different can you really make a movie as opposed to another one of a similar nature? It's got to be extremely tough. I can't.
Back to the space programs, and then the Apollo 13 movie. In the movie, I because it's Hollywood, they have to have some kind of antagonist or some kind of issue.
Yeah.
Everything can't just be hunky dory and smooth. Yeah. So that's why they introduced. I don't think those guys were as snippy with each other because they were professionals, and they knew, like Captain Lovell making that one comment, if we're arguing, or Tom Hanks making that one, if we're arguing, we're still going to come right back to the same point. We're right here. So I don't think that those guys, because of their training, they had to be so highly trained and so professional, and they had run into these things as test pilots for the most part, that the Hollywood had to introduce that antagonism between characters in the show. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Gotta have drama in a movie. Yeah. There's gotta be some sort of what's going to happen now. Yeah.
To maintain the interest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. think that's about it, Tom.
Coach, I appreciate it.
That's about it for our movie talk, our alien talk. If you guys want to leave comments on what you feel about the aliens and UFOs and Area 51, let us hear it. We'd like to know. Before we wrap things up, Tom, do you have a bright story to share? Something that happened to you, or something that you did that kind of just brightened up somebody's day or brightened up your day if you heard about it? I don't know if I...
Let's see, something that I may have done that brightened up somebody's day. I like the idea of, here's something, Coach. Here's what I've noticed. I don't know if this falls in the genre of a bright idea. What we've, something that we've lost, I think, since the 90s on the bike trails.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 90s, when I would walk, almost with very few exceptions, when a biker would pass you, they would always indicate on your left. And it was almost routine that would happen. I've seen that now has waned, and I don't know when that started to happen. So that's more on the, I wish more people would come back to that, no matter where you are, passing on the left or on the left. And I always take time to thank somebody for doing that, because I just think it's a courtesy.
Okay.
Bright story. I like when people pay it forward at Aldi.
Yeah.
Where they give you a basket. I've done that, and I feel very, very not fortunate, but I feel pleased that somebody takes the time to offer a basket without having to do that quarter. And then speaking of Aldi and the quarter, you know what I'm talking about, Coach?
No, I don't. No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry about that.
No,
Aldi,
that's okay.
Do you know the Aldi store?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Aldi store has baskets out front.
Okay.
And in order to keep their costs down, it takes a quarter for you to get and use the basket.
Right.
So again, sometimes I'm an idiot sometimes. You should have, the first time that my wife sent me to Aldi and I tried to get you should have seen me trying to get that darn quarter out of the slot, because the quarter slot is on the handle. Uh-huh. And the baskets are pushed, like the normal store, they're pushed in, into each other, and they lock, they're locked. Yeah. So you have to, first of all, you have to insert a quarter to get the basket out. So there's the quarter of the last basket is out. You put a quarter in and it releases the lock, and you're able to take the basket. So the first time I returned the basket and I shove it into the basket in front of me so that it locks in. And I'm trying to get my quarter back out, and I'm trying to use the key that's on mine to try to get the quarter out. And the darn thing wouldn't reach around, and I'm struggling. Oh my God. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a college educated individual, and I can't figure this darn thing out. And I don't know. I think I had to ask for help. I said,
oh my gosh.
I said, ma'am, how do I get this quarter out? And she takes the one that's ahead of me and pushes it, and it's got plenty of chain links to do it. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm going, ma'am, thanks a lot. I feel like such an idiot. But Coach, I felt like such an idiot the first time trying to get my quarter out of all these baskets. So I'm always grateful, and it's always it warms my heart when I see somebody passing it off, because they were given a basket with no choice. And I know a quarter is a small amount, but again, it's the thought that counts there.
Exactly.
And a lot of courtesy there. And I know if you and I have talked about it, and I can't take credit for this. It's my youngest brother, who's 9 years younger than me. We have in society now too. It's all about me. The people that leave the basket in the middle of the aisles and stuff like that, and they talk and they don't care about anything else but themselves. Yeah. So when you see the opposite of that, which I've come across very, very frequently, mostly in grocery stores or anywhere else, somebody, or at Aldi, again, another Aldi store, letting somebody with only 3 items go in front of you if you have a basket full. Yeah. So that, that's always good.
Yeah. Tom, you were worried about it, and those all three of those stories are exactly what Bright Connections and Bright Stories, our Bright Stories are all about. With the passing on the left thing, that's just a courtesy. That's almost like the same thing as holding the door for somebody. It's a simple concept, but it's something that shows that you are being courteous, you're being kind, but you're also recognizing them in what they're doing too, and respecting that. Absolutely. The paying it forward thing, that's always a wonderful thing. It's like you said, it's not that it's a huge monetary thing. It's not that it's a huge concept, but it's just the thought that counts. Like you said,
now one of the things that I've learned about the Bright Connection show and about you is that the show brings out that there's something bigger than you out there.
Yes.
That's the thing. Again, because I was trained that way from the college days and in the Marines, I know that there's something bigger than me out there. And you and I have talked about it, but your audience doesn't know. If you ever wondered why I am the way I am, it's because of the way I was trained. Yeah. Started at home with mom and dad, the courtesy, and then I learned to be a gentleman at school and in the Marines. In the Marines, you're an officer and a gentleman. Yeah. Actually by an act of Congress. But again, I know for a fact there's something bigger than me out there. You coaching your kids, there's some you know that there's something bigger than you out there, and you're contributing to society, and you're contributing at the best level, which is as you had mentioned in the early part of your show, that you're contributing to these kids both in a sports way and in as a human being way.
Right.
You're going to turn them into better grown-ups, better teenagers, and they will, coach. They may not say it now, but they respect you for what you're doing. And now you and I have talked about that. That's you're instilling that into them, and they'll remember you 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah. I have a couple kids when from my early years coaching that still reach out to me and say, thank you for everything you've done. And that's, humbling is
that's correct.
Not even a good enough word for it, but that's, what I can come up with. The impact that we can make even further than just to kids, but to each other, even this day and age, like you said, and a lot of people are me. But Bright Connections is here to hopefully remind people that it isn't all, not everybody's that way. That there are people that are still kind and courteous and bright and very, very friendly to one another and willing to be selfless to one another. And so your stories, portray that as well, that there are still people that are doing simple things, but impactful things. Yeah. Just showing.
I'd like to leave you with that regard. I would like to leave you with one more bright story.
Okay.
It just, again, floating around up there while you were talking.
Yeah.
While I was in the Marines, and I mentioned I was an officer. So as an infantry officer, we were responsible for our men. If we needed to take care of them as best we could. If I had a jacket on and they did not, shame on me. I needed to make sure that my men were taken care of. And at one point, one of the best things that ever happened to me as an officer is that one of my enlisted guys told me that I was more of a father to him than his real father. So when you want to talk about a Bright Connection type of feel good, that it can't get much better than that as an officer in the service than one of your men tell you that
recognizing the impact that you made on his life.
Correct.
Yeah.
At that time right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll leave you with that, Coach.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what Bright Connections is. That's my goal. My aim is to remind people and to influence people to push toward being that type of character, showing that type of character and that personality. Is that it's a simple thing and we all can do it. It's all, I truly believe that it's all embedded in us. Whether or not you've been directed that way or raised that way, I think it's in you, and I think everyone is able to bring that out. And it's obviously it's up to you. It's your choice to do so. But hopefully with my stories and my influence that I can persuade you to do so. I can persuade everybody to continue to be their best self and to try to influence others to be their best self as well. So that's the goal. That has always been the goal and will continue to be the goal.
Well spoken, Coach. Well spoken.
Thank you, sir. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed our alien talk and everything else, our movies. As always, if you could follow us on social media and spread the word of Bright Connections and what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do. Share Bright Connections, follow us, subscribe on YouTube and everything, and continue to be your best self. Continue to do your best, be bright each and every day, and like I said, inspire everyone else around you to be bright and kind and everything as well. So have a wonderful week, Tom. Thank you again for joining me.
Coach, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
You bet. Me too. Absolutely. Me too. So guys, have a wonderful and bright week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.